All right, Liz Wheeler Show, episode 440, take one. Okay, we are, of course, going to talk about Congressman Matt Gaetz ousting Speaker of the House, or now former Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, and why so many conservatives are totally wrong about this. This was actually a good thing, even though, yes, it begot chaos. And I'm going to tell you why. We're going to talk about all of that, of course. There's a lot to break down. But before we get to that, I want to show you a video that absolutely slayed me. I've watched this probably a dozen times. It cracks me up every time. Aaron Rodgers was talking about football. Surprise, surprise. He was talking about football, analyzing his team's performance against the Chiefs this past weekend. And he called Travis Kelce, yes, Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift's new love bug. He called Travis Kelce. Well, I'm going to let you hear for yourself what Aaron Rodgers called him. Take a listen.
Didn't have a crazy game, and Mr. Pfizer, we kind of shut him down a little bit. He didn't have his like crazy impact game. Obviously, he had some yards and stuff, but I felt like for the most part, we played really tough on defense, especially the last three quarters. And
the funniest part of that is he delivers it like a sitcom would deliver it. He delivers it completely deadpan. No expression on his face, no change in cadence or tone. He just drops it. Like you have to be actually listening to hear his insult, Mr. Pfizer. And for those of you who don't know why he's calling Travis Kelce Mr. Pfizer, it is because Travis Kelce, he's rocketed to fame, right? Because he's dating or seeing Taylor Swift or whatever. I'd actually not heard of him. I think I'd heard his name, but I didn't really know who he was before he started dating Taylor Swift. And yes, all the men watching the show can make fun of me all you want. It's football, not a super football fan over here. Well, Travis Kelce, after he had gained even more fame from dating Taylor Swift, he cut this ad for the COVID vaccine from Pfizer. This is the ad.
Get this season's COVID-19 shot when you get your flu shot.
Two things at once.
Two things at once! Two things at once! I'll have two things at once, please.
Now back to two things at once.
Two things at once.
That's not two things at once.
Mama.
Travis, ask about getting this season's COVID-19 shot when getting your flu shot.
I can't even watch it. It's so cringy. It's so disgusting. And that is what Aaron Rodgers, just by one little phrase, analyzing the football game. And he goes, yeah, we shut down Mr. Pfizer pretty good too. Excellently done, Aaron Rodgers. Wish that you were playing. Hope that you heal quickly. Excellently done. So that's the laugh for the weekend. And the next thing I want to do on the show is I want to extend a huge congratulations to Congressman Jamaal Bowman. Huge congratulations, huge shout out, because you committed a felony. You admitted that you committed a felony. You then lied about committing a felony, and you're going to get away with it. You're going to get away with it because of what happened with the Speaker of the House. It's so weird to me. Before we get into all of this drama, and it's actually inter-Republican drama. Conservatives are very split on whether Matt Gaetz should have ousted Speaker McCarthy, and I'm going to take a very hard position on this, as you will plainly see, and I'm going to make my case for why you should think the way that I'm thinking about this. But it's weird to me that so many conservatives, even conservatives that I respect, this is not just like Trumpers versus never Trumpers or something like that. It's weird to me that so many conservatives are horrified that Matt Gaetz ousted Kevin McCarthy from the speakership. I don't get this, because it's like McCarthy was effectively fighting against Biden, and you're upset because now he's not able to effectively fight against Biden and the left. No. McCarthy couldn't even make a big enough fuss to hold Jamaal Bowman from his own House of Representatives accountable for the felony that Bowman admitted to committing. All the while, January 6ers, who did less than what Jamaal Bowman did, are rotting in prison. So the way that I approach this, I don't quite understand the emotion that's coming from a lot of conservatives about this ousting of Kevin McCarthy. He wasn't doing a good job. He wasn't dismantling the administrative state or holding the left accountable, or he took a billion years to even start an impeachment inquiry of Joe Biden. And was he even going to get to some kind of impeachment? Was there going to be criminal referrals? Who's to say? Because it took him forever to do it. So I don't quite understand the emotion from conservatives. And I will tell you what is going to happen and what should happen, what conservatives should demand, because what happened when Speaker McCarthy was ousted is actually a good thing. And we're going to get into that in just a second. But first, I want to talk to you about the morning kick. Do you know what the morning kick is? The morning kick is Chuck Norris's drink. You know Chuck Norris, of course you do. He's 83 years old now, but he's still kicking and punching and looking great. He actually looks the same as he did like 50 years ago. And his secret is not some crazy exercise thing. He just started taking a few powerful supplements, and now he says he feels better today than he has in years. These ingredients worked so well, he put them all together in a drink he calls the Morning Kick, which I was sold on this just because it's the best name that I can possibly think of. It combines all 10 of Chuck Norris's favorite supplements into one daily drink. I'm talking probiotics, prebiotics, superfoods, and several of the most powerful supplements on earth. And it tastes like strawberry lemonade. Who doesn't love that? The Morning Kick helps increase energy. It boosts digestion. It helps you think more clearly. Now, everyone's results are unique, so the results will be different for different people, obviously. But if you want to try it yourself, and I highly recommend that you do, head over to Chuck's website at mymorningkick.com/Liz. That's mymorningkick.com/Liz. Again, remember, all individuals are unique, so of course, as such, your results can and will vary, but try it out, mymorningkick.com/Liz. So it's also interesting to me to watch. So I sit there on Twitter oftentimes when these events are unfolding, such as Matt Gaetz making a motion to vacate the Speaker of the House, ousting McCarthy. And I sit there and I watch people's reactions on Twitter just to see what people are saying, to see how people feel about things. I am not huge on the hot takes. I like to collect information first. I like to analyze things, just be a little more methodical about it. So I'm not always the first person to send out a tweet about something. And it's interesting to me when a lot of conservatives reacted so furiously to the fact that, they called Matt Gaetz a showboat. They said that he's a loose cannon. They said he's just looking for clicks and TV hits, and he never met a microphone he didn't want to be used to interview him, yada, yada, yada. But it's weird to me how furious a lot of conservatives are at Matt Gaetz for ousting McCarthy when we didn't hear a word from most of these conservatives when 18 House Republicans refused to pass an amendment that would defund drag shows and Pride Month at the Department of Defense. Like, do we not see a little disconnect in priorities here? Just a little problem in how we're directing our anger or what we think is the biggest threat to our agenda. There's a little disconnect here. And I too, one of people's main concerns is, okay, Matt Gaetz, you did it, you accomplished it, okay, you held McCarthy accountable, but what's the plan now? I also want a plan. I hope Matt Gaetz has a plan. I don't know if he has a plan or not. I hope and pray that he does, or that he's coming up with one. I hope we don't jump out of the frying pan and into the fire, which is also what some people are concerned about. That's a valid concern. But let's not pretend, as we are waiting for Matt Gaetz's plan, let's not pretend that McCarthy's plan was good. Like, what was McCarthy's plan? Give more money to Zelensky in Ukraine? Come on. So let's back up for a second. Let's talk about what led to this, because this helps us order what we should do from here, or how we should think about this. So McCarthy was ousted as Speaker because back when there was this standoff during the original Speaker elections, Matt Gaetz refused to vote for McCarthy. They needed Matt Gaetz's vote. So he negotiated a hardline deal with McCarthy that allowed any member of Congress to file a motion to vacate the speakership if the speaker violated terms of this agreement that Gaetz had negotiated. So the preface here is, remember, McCarthy, in his desperate bid to be speaker, agreed to this agreement, agreed to this negotiation that any member of the House could file a motion to vacate the speakership. So he shouldn't act like this is something he didn't agree to the terms of at the very beginning. He did. But this is the moment that the votes were cast and the speakership that Speaker McCarthy was formally fired from the position. Take a look.
On this vote, the yeas are 216, the nays are 210. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. The office of Speaker of the House of the United States House of Representatives is hereby declared vacant.
Okay, let's stop right there. So I feel like there should be like dun 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 music at the end of that, but it's really not that big of a deal. If you ask the average American, they don't know who the Speaker of the House is. So again, I don't quite understand the outrage from a lot of conservatives. If I'm missing something, I'm sure you'll let me know, and I'm interested in your take on here. But again, McCarthy didn't follow the rules that he negotiated. Gaetz had negotiated pretty specific rules for McCarthy and how he would handle single issue bills and whether or not there would be more money that was sent to Ukraine, sort of this unlimited tap of our cash being sent to Zelensky. McCarthy didn't follow through on that. Just last week, he negotiated a deal with Democrats against, behind the backs of Republicans that would send more money to Zelensky in Ukraine. If he hadn't done that, do you think Gaetz would have filed this motion to vacate the seat? I don't think he would have. Because Gaetz, you can criticize Gaetz all you want for being an attention seeker. Everyone in Congress is. I don't even care about that anymore. Everyone in Congress is a crazy person. I care about their actions and what they're doing when it comes to policy, much more than I care about whether they're attention seeking. They're all attention seeking. They're all looking for money. They're all looking for power. Join me in being cynical about every single politician. Maybe this will finally demonstrate to a lot of conservatives that no, we shouldn't view conservative politicians as being some kind of spiritual figure. We shouldn't view them as being such men of integrity and women of integrity that, they always make the right decisions. No, they're all terrible people, which is why we have to direct what they do. But this is what Gaetz's argument was about why McCarthy deserved to lose his spot. Take a look at this.
Don't support Kevin McCarthy would plunge the House and the country into chaos. Chaos is Speaker McCarthy. Chaos is somebody who we cannot trust with their word. The one thing that the White House, House Democrats, and many of us on the conservative side of the Republican caucus would argue is that the thing we have in common, Kevin McCarthy said something to all of us at one point or another that he didn't really mean and never intended to live up to. I don't think voting against Kevin McCarthy is chaos. I think $33 trillion in debt is chaos. I think that facing a $2.2 trillion annual deficit is chaos. I think that not passing single subject spending bills is chaos. I think the fact that we have been governed in this country since the mid-90s by continuing resolution and omnibus is chaos. And the way to liberate ourselves from that is a series of reforms to this body that I would hope would outlast Speaker McCarthy's time here, would outlast my time here, and would outlast either of our majorities. Reforms that I have heard some of the most conservative members of this body fight for, and some of the reforms that we've been battling for that I've even heard those in the Democrat caucus say would be worthy and helpful to the House, like open amendments, like understanding what the budget is. We have been out of compliance with budget laws for most of my life, most of many of your lives. And by the way, if we did those things, if we had single subject bills, if we had an understanding on the top line, if we had open amendments, if we had trust and honesty and understanding, there would be times when my conservative colleagues and I would lose, might be a few times when we'd win. There'd be times that we would form partnerships that might otherwise not be really predictable in the American body politic, but the American people would see us legislating. These last few days, we've suspended the momentum that we had established the week earlier, where we were bringing bills to the floor, voting on them, staying late at night, working hard. That's what the American people expect. It's something Speaker McCarthy hasn't delivered, and that's why I've moved to vacate the chair. I reserve.
So this is what I challenge conservatives. If you're a conservative who didn't agree with Matt Gaetz, and there are some good conservatives who I highly respect who disagreed with what Matt Gaetz did. So maybe I'm talking to you. This include members of the House of Representatives who I know personally, who I'm friends with, who I respect. I challenge you to listen to that argument from Matt Gaetz and putting all of his other behaviors aside. I don't care if you don't like him personally. I don't care if you think he's an attention seeker. I don't care if you think he's a blowhard. I don't care about any of that. For the purpose of this exercise, think about his statement right there narrowly. Just think about it. Don't even think about him saying it. Think about just a transcript of the words he spoke, and then show me where he's wrong. Circle, underline, highlight, whatever you need to do. Show me exactly what you disagree with. What is he wrong about? Where is he incorrect? This is not a trap. This is not me trying to back you into a corner. I'm actually interested. Where is he wrong? Because if he's not wrong, and I would argue that he's wrong. I'd listened to that a dozen times. If he's not wrong, then why shouldn't he file a motion to vacate the chair? Because the Speaker of the House is not doing the things that Matt Gaetz and you and I know need to be done. Our Congress is broken right now. He's right when we talk about these trillions of dollars of debt all the time, and it's not only bad that Democrats are spending that money and that Republicans have become as bad as Democrats. We don't even make budgets anymore. We don't even try to rein in our spending. We don't even try to be responsible. Why not? Shouldn't we get back on that track? Shouldn't we? And we're vilifying the one man who's actually taking action to make that happen. That doesn't make sense to me. I'm going to show you this video of McCarthy being escorted out, and then I'm going to show you a video of what McCarthy said about Matt Gaetz, but he's really not talking about Matt Gaetz. He's talking about us. I'm going to show you that in just a second. But first, I want to talk to you about Delta Rescue. Delta Rescue is an organization that I hold near to my heart, and I think you will too, because we all want to save dogs and cats, animals from starvation in the wilderness. Unfortunately, not all animals are as fortunate as our pets to have loving homes and loving families. There are a lot of dogs and cats that are neglected in the wilderness, which is why you have to check out Delta Rescue. Delta Rescue is not an ordinary shelter. You can think of them as a super sanctuary for rescued animals to play and love, eat and heal and be happy. Now, Delta Rescue is on a lifelong mission to care for animals that they save from the wild, not just dogs and cats, but actually horses too. They are the largest care for life animal sanctuary in the world, and that phrase is really important. They are a care for life, which means no kill. Here's how you can help. Delta Rescue relies solely on the contributions from people like us to care for their 1,500 animals. No contribution is too small. Every dollar helps and goes directly to their animals. Delta Rescue also sends out monthly newsletters that include heartwarming stories that I really enjoy. I think you will too. I encourage you, take some time and visit deltarescue.org. They can answer all your questions. They're happy to speak with other animal lovers and good Samaritans. You won't regret it. Visit deltarescue.org. That's deltarescue.org. So I want to show you this video of McCarthy being escorted out after he was ousted as Speaker of the House. You can play this video. There's some background audio to it, but there's not specific words that are being spoken. So I'm going to probably keep talking on the top of this, but Rebecca, you can pull this up anytime. This is McCarthy being escorted out. As you can see, tensions and emotions were running quite high. But what's really telling to me about McCarthy's exit is what he said after he has walked out. Now, this is the ultimate walk of shame, right? He should be humiliated. I hope he is humiliated because he's the swampiest of swamp creatures. But this is what he said about Matt Gaetz and those 7 other Republicans who voted with Matt Gaetz to oust him from Speaker. But it's not really these 8 Republicans that he's talking about when he says what he says. Take a listen to what he called Matt Gaetz.
My goals have not changed. My ability to fight is just in a different form. You need 218. Unfortunately, 4% of our conference can join all the Democrats and dictate who can be the Republican Speaker in this House. I don't think that rule is good for the institution, but apparently I'm the only one. I believe I can continue to fight, maybe in a different manner. I will not run for Speaker again. I'll have the conference pick somebody else.
Okay, so let's pause it right there. Let's stop right there for a second. And let's remember, he said, I don't think that rule that any one person in the Republican caucus can file a motion to vacate the chair. He agreed to that term when he became Speaker. It was one of the terms that he agreed to in order to become Speaker. So if he didn't think it was a good thing or a healthy thing, he shouldn't have accepted it in the first place. This is Kevin McCarthy pretending to be the victim. In addition to that, he says 4% of our caucus can join the Democrats and dictate. That's the phrase that he used. So when he's talking about 4% of the caucus, he's talking about those 8 Republicans that voted against him, that voted to oust him from the speakership. But what he really means when he says that is that he is so disconnected from the base that he doesn't want our voices represented in the people's house. Because the base, meaning you and I, we have a problem with how Congress is run. We don't like swamp creatures like Kevin McCarthy running the House of Representatives like Democrat light. We don't like unlimited amounts of money going to Zelensky in Ukraine. We don't like these humongous bills that have so many things hidden inside them that we don't know what our representatives are voting for. Our representatives don't even know what they're voting for. And yet he's dismissing us again and again. Well, Speaker McCarthy, this is why you were ousted. Because for how many years now has the House of Representatives ignored the will of the people who sent you there to represent us? We actually want a based fighter. We actually want a savage fighter. This is not time to think about where you're going to have dinner with your Democrat opposition after you convene from the House of Representatives. This is not time to think about what cigar bar you're going to go to with your Democrat friends or where you're going to drink brandy with lobbyists. You shouldn't go to Congress to be popular. You should go to Congress to fight for the right thing, even if that makes you unpopular. And maybe that's what Matt Gaetz is being accused of right now because he's the only one that's actually fighting for what the base has said for a long time that we want. And here's a really interesting point that Jesse Kelly made. This is element number 7A. The acting Speaker of the House or the interim Speaker of the House. Look at this video, first of all. Look at the anger in which he bangs down the gavel.
Chair declares the House in recess, subject to the call of the chair.
Did you see that little temper tantrum? Play that again, Rebecca, if you can. Play that again. Look at that little temper tantrum, how he whacks down the gavel.
Call of the chair.
It's like an angry little temper tantrum. But think about this. This is what Jesse Kelly, if you can scroll up just a little bit to see, so we can see Jesse Kelly's tweets. He goes, name one time in your life you have ever seen a Republican with the gavel show this level of anger about any of the crimes committed on the floor of the House of Representatives. One time, Jesse Kelly says, name it for me. And you can't name one. I can't name one because it's never happened before. Republicans only have the fire in their belly to fight when they're fighting for a swamp creature to be in charge of our party. Priorities, people, priorities. So Meghan McCain is a dear friend of mine. I love her. We don't agree on many political issues. We agree on some, but regardless, she's a dear friend of mine. And she posted this on Twitter after, or X.com, after this all went down. I want to bring this up. She says, the GOP's brand is officially just chaos and nothing else. Now, she and I probably have different takes on this. I think that she was in support of McCarthy, and I am generally supportive of what Matt Gaetz has done, hoping, of course, that he has a plan moving forward, but at least giving him the benefit of the doubt because he's trying to unseat the establishment in the House. But Meghan's point made is actually very insightful because she's correct that the Republican Party has no identity other than chaos. Not for the purpose of chaos, and maybe she didn't mean it in the way that I mean it, but the Republican Party doesn't have an ideology around which they coalesce. The Democrats do. The Democrats are so committed to their ideological agenda that they always vote in lockstep. It's the reason we mock Democrats because they never dissent from Nancy Pelosi. They never dissent from Hakeem Jeffries. They never dissent. They always vote in lockstep. And we make fun of them because we're like, don't you have an independent-minded person among you? So the Democrats are actually committed to achieving their ideological goals, whereas Republicans, we don't share an ideological goal. We don't even have the same definition of limited government or responsible fiscal spending. We can't even define our morals, what's right and what's wrong. Republicans don't have a cohesive agenda. She's right. This is a point that I make in my book. I think the Republican Party for a long time has forgotten to have an ideology that they're working towards. We've fallen sucker to this idea that our government can be neutral or that institutions, even cultural institutions, not just governmental institutions, can be neutral. And that's not true. There's no such thing as neutrality. Either the values of one side or the ideologies of one side prevail or the values of the other side prevail. And when Republicans buy into this false idea of neutrality, all it actually means strategically is that they pull away from either the government or a cultural institution or cohesiveness as a party. And the result of that is the Democrats just swoop in and take control of whatever it is. So every time you see a Democrat Party that's completely rock solid together, like they can count on, they won't lose a single vote in their caucus. But the Republican Party is splintered and at a civil war because we don't have any idea what we stand for. It is because we actually have no idea what we stand for. And we need to challenge conservatives and the Republican Party apparatus to identify what our ideological goal is. And I can tell you what it should be. It should be that we are seeking, as a party and as representatives in government, we are seeking a free society. Now, what does that mean to be a free society is, of course, where the difference between the Republican Party and this is where the difference happens. The Republican Party thinks a free society just means the maximum amount of individual freedom. This libertarian idea, like pull away, be neutral, give everyone maximum freedom. But that doesn't work. It begets cultural chaos. The actual definition of freedom is the means to something greater. Well, what is that something greater? What is it? What do we want our society to look like? What is human flourishing? Are we seeking justice? Are we seeking the protection of natural law, these rights given to us inherently by our Creator? What are we seeking? We have to define it. And then we have to play offense. We can't just defend against the attacks on the left. We actually have to seek to have our values be predominant in governmental and cultural institutions. Otherwise, yes, the Republican brand is just chaos, pure chaos. So maybe Megyn made a point that she didn't mean to make, but the point that she didn't mean to make is a very, very good point. And then, of course, you have other Republicans who are so captured by the swamp establishment that they're calling any dissenting conservatives terrorists. I'm going to read you this post from Senator John Cornyn in just a second, but first I want to talk to you about Bonner Private Wine. Today, my friends, I have a special treat for you. It's a wine so rare that it sells out practically every time it's released. It's Bonner Private Wine's Sunel Elagico Malbec, a never-before imported gem. But picture this. Deep in a remote valley in Argentina, at a breathtaking altitude of 8,950 feet, sits the third highest vineyard in all the world. It's here that the Sunel Elagico Malbec is born. Now, you might be asking what sets this bottle apart from home and restaurant wine. Sunel Elagico is highly rated at 91 points. There's no fining, no filtration done when producing Sunel, preserving its true natural taste. It boasts a staggering 10 times more resveratrol levels, and it has 93% less sugar than bulk grocery store reds. And Bonner Private Wines is the sole importer of this amazing Malbec. Now, I've arranged for you to get a bottle of this exclusive wine by visiting bonnerprivatewines.com/Liz by becoming a member of Bonner Private Wine Partnership. You do have to act fast. This exclusive Malbec sells out quickly. You don't want to miss your chance. If you visit bonnerprivatewines.com/Liz right now, you'll not only get the Sunel, but you'll get your wine for over 50% off plus free shipping. Visit bonnerprivatewines.com/Liz. That's bonnerprivatewines.com/Liz. And then, of course, we have Republican establishment figures who think that any dissenters from what? Like, what are we dissenting from? Just establishment swampism? Senator John Cornyn, look, bring this tweet up if we can. This is element number 10. Element number 10. I'm going to read this to you. Senator John Cornyn calls the effort to oust McCarthy disgraceful. This is his quote. "We saw a similar thing happen to Boehner, to Ryan, and now McCarthy. I'm sure the next speaker is going to be subjected to the same terrorist attacks." So now, my friends, not only are parents domestic terrorists, not only are patriotic people violent extremists, now if you want to hold the Speaker of the House accountable, you are a terrorist as well. So this is part of the problem that Gaetz is trying to solve for. And it might not be pretty, it might not be easy, but don't we agree that this is a problem that needs to be solved for? I certainly think it is. This is what we need in a new speaker. We need a new speaker to demand that every single issue facing the American people, every single issue in a political discourse is a bill, a single issue bill that is voted on by people on both the right and the left. Because we need every single member of the House of Representatives to be on record on every issue. Imagine if you put a bill in front of Congress that, I don't know how this would be done, this is hypothetical, but that would ban ban males from competing in female athletic competitions. And imagine that you got all the Democrats to vote against this because they actually want men to compete in women's sports. And then you have the vast majority of the American people who don't want men to be competing in women's sports. And you'd be able to directly show those people, hey, the Democrats disagree with you. They want something that you oppose. Every single issue should be put before the American people in a bill this long, so the American people can see very clearly where each and every representative stands on each and every issue. That is what the next Speaker of the House should do. The next Speaker of the House should refuse to send even a penny more to Zelensky. Not a penny more under any circumstances. Shut down the government? Fine. Don't legislate a single thing until the tap of U.S. taxpayer dollars flowing into Zelensky's bank account stops. The U.S. Congress, the next Speaker of the House should force votes on banning critical race theory, queer theory, DEI, and ESG from any institution that touches a dime of taxpayer money, including private institutions that maybe if they're educational institutions, they take federally subsidized student loans. Maybe they're private companies that contract with the government. It should be banned. Ban it. You can't abolish the FBI exactly, but you can defund the administrative state. The House of Representatives has the power of the purse. Use it. And then I know a lot of people are concerned, oh, you oust Speaker McCarthy, it puts all these investigations in the House of Representatives at risk. What investigations? A bunch of hearings that lead to nothing? What accountability? This is my question. It's not that the information that has come out of some of these investigations recently hasn't been interesting. It has, especially I think it's the House Oversight Committee that's been releasing all this information about Biden and Hunter Biden. Yes, that's great information. I appreciate that. But I need more than information. I need actual accountability under the law for crimes that have been committed. And show me one time that Republicans in Congress have ever done that. One time. So until they prove to me that they're actually going to hold criminals accountable under the law for their actions, I don't really care about their trials. I don't really care about their investigations. I don't really care about their hearings. I don't really care about their video clips. It's just annoying for us to sit here and see all of this corruption and have nothing done about it. So that's what a new Speaker of the House should look like. Who it's going to be ultimately, who's to say? But we will be following along. We will be following along as critical of anybody who gets nominated as we can possibly be, because criticism helps hold them accountable. And they are accountable to us. Meanwhile, over in the Senate, there's a new senator from California, LaFonza Butler. This is, of course, Governor Gavin Newsom in California appointed LaFonza Butler after Dianne Feinstein died recently. And she was sworn into office, LaFonza Butler was, and this is Chuck Schumer's post that he made about her. He said, "I'm honored to welcome Senator LaFonza Butler to the U.S. Senate. This is a historic moment for the Senate, for California, and for our country. She's the third Black woman in U.S. history to serve in the Senate, the first openly lesbian senator from California, and the first openly LGBTQ senator of color." How insulting is that? How insulting to this woman that her only quote-unquote accomplishments, the only reason she was appointed, the only reason the Democrats are happy to have her in Congress is because the color of her skin and who she wants to have sex with? Like, I cannot think of something more insulting. How about, this is where she went to college. This is how smart she is. This is what she's accomplished in her business life. This is her resume. No. Let me just stick out your arm. Let me see the color of your hand. Oh, you'll do. Token Black woman, likes girls, token lesbian, come on in. This is so insulting. So insulting. It surprises me sometimes that people on the left who aren't necessarily the politicians or the activist class don't see that this is so insulting. That this woman has been reduced to her skin color, her sex, and the sex of the person she likes to sleep with. Okay, is this supposed to be progress in our country? Insane. Absolutely insane. And the Democrats should be ashamed of themselves. This also proves, by the way, that Governor Gavin Newsom is not even kind of neutral. People were like, oh, he vetoed that bill that would have allowed judges to take custody away from parents if the parent didn't want to transition their kid. And people were like, well, he vetoed it. Maybe he's reasonable. No, he's not reasonable. He did that because it was just politically advantageous at the moment for him. But this is who he appoints. He appoints this woman. She was the previous president of Emily's List. It's a political organization dedicated just to electing pro-abortion candidates into office. She's very, very radically left. And so is Newsom. Of course he is. So we live in this era of Me Too, where we're told that we should believe all women when they make an allegation. When they make an allegation against a man, the man doesn't deserve due process, I suppose. And these allegations can ruin men's lives. Ruins men's lives. Absolutely, because it's attached to their reputation. Even if they don't go to prison, even if it's disproved, there's always, their reputation is just tainted. There's always a little asterisk by their names. Like, did they commit this sexual assault? Were they actually raped? Once they were accused of it. And one man is speaking out about his experience of being falsely accused of sexual misconduct, even though it was a completely false allegation. It is chilling. Take a listen to this.
Next victim, star pitcher for the Dodgers. A text Lindsey Hill sent to a friend before she ever even met me. What should I steal? She asked another, in reference to visiting my house for the first time. The answer? Take his money. So how might that work? I'm going to his house Wednesday, she said. I already have my hooks in. You know how I roll. Then, after the first time we met, net worth is 51 mil, she said. Bitch, you better secure the bag, was the response. But how is she going to do that? Need daddy to choke me out, she said. Being an absolute whore to try to get in on his 51 million, read another text. Then, after the second time we met, former Padres pitcher Jacob Nix told her, you got to get this bag. I'll give you $50,000, Lindsay replied. Her AA sponsor asked her at one point, do you feel a tiny bit guilty? Not really, she replied. Since then, her legal team has approached me multiple times about coming to a financial settlement. But as I have done since day one, I refuse to pay her even a single cent. In August of 2021, Lindsay Hill's claims were heard in court. And during those legal proceedings, critical information was deliberately and unlawfully concealed from me and my legal team. Information like this video, which was taken by Lindsay Hill herself the morning after she claimed she was brutally attacked, emotionally traumatized, and desperate to get away from me. And now we have the metadata, so there can be no dispute. It was taken mere minutes before she left my house on the morning of May 16th, 2021, without my knowledge or consent, of course. In it, you can see her lying in bed next to me while I'm sleeping, smirking at the camera without a care in the world, or any marks on her face. I think it paints a pretty clear picture of what actually happened the evening of May 15th and why the video was originally concealed from us. Yeah. After hearing the evidence available to her, Judge Diana Gold-Saltman found that Lindsay Hill had misled the court. She found her claims to be materially misleading. She denied her request for a domestic violence restraining order, and she found that no sexual assault or non-consensual conduct took place. Now, some of you might not know about restraining order hearings. I know I didn't, but I've since learned that it's extremely rare for a request for a restraining order to be denied because the standard of proof that you need to obtain one is extremely low. So you can make of that what you will. The fact is, I was never arrested. I was never charged with a crime, and I won the only legal proceeding that took place without my side of the story even being heard. And most importantly, as I've said from day one, I never sexually assaulted Lindsay Hill, or anyone else for that matter. So I sued her, which prompted her to countersue me. Quite frankly, regardless of the outcome in court, I've paid significantly more in legal fees than Lindsay Hill could ever pay me in her entire life. And I knew that would be the case going in. But the lawsuit was never about the money for me. It was the only way for me to obtain critical information to clear my name. The discovery process in that lawsuit recently concluded, at which point Lindsay Hill's legal team again came to us with another proposal to resolve the case. This time, however, they weren't seeking any money from me. Having received much of the information that had been hidden from us, a small portion of which I've referenced here, I was willing to agree to the terms proposed. Both parties would drop their respective lawsuits, and neither of us would pay either side any money. I also retained my right to speak publicly about the case, something I have not been at liberty to do since June of 2021. So, as of today, both lawsuits have been settled. Now, over the last 2 years, I've been forced to defend my integrity and my reputation in a very public setting. But hopefully this is the last time I have to do so, as I'd prefer to just remain focused on doing my job, winning baseball games and entertaining fans around the world. So today, I'm happy to be moving on with my life.
Does that give you the chills? That's the culture that the left has created. That's the attacks on men that are happening because of the radical left, because of this Me Too movement. Where a man who, you can criticize him for engaging in casual hookup culture, casual sex. You know I'm critical of hookup culture and casual sex. So you criticize him all you want for that, but that's an entirely different criticism than engaging in consensual casual sex, engaging in consensual hookup culture, and then the woman falsely accusing him of sexual misconduct in order to not caring that she will ruin his reputation, his career, and possibly his life and his freedom in an effort to get money from him. And it was all a lie. So we talk often on this show about the red pill movement. We talk about Andrew Tate. We talk about Tristan Tate. And I often say that Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate are as popular as they are because they accurately diagnose a cultural ill. They accurately diagnose that in Western society, particularly American culture, men are under assault. And men feel that. There's a reason that video has over 70 million views on Twitter. The reason is because this horrifies men. As it should. It horrifies men to the core because they think, what if that had been me? What if I'm not a professional MLB player? What if I don't have the money to do this? What if this happens to me? And it could. And the reason the red pill movement is so popular is because they're saying, wait a second, this is wrong. We cannot tolerate living in a society where men are vilified and women are believed even when they're making frivolous, false allegations. Now, the red pill movement's prescription is wrong. The red pill movement's prescription is either overcompensating or leading men to self-destruction. It's not a constructive solution, which is where my problem with the red pill movement, or my criticism of the red pill movement, emerges. I wish that they would be properly ordered in their response because their diagnosis is correct. But this is what the left has begun. There are some people who think that if you make a false rape allegation against a man the way that this woman did, that you should be, and it's proven that it's a false allegation, that you should be sentenced to the same sentence that the man would have faced had he been convicted of that false allegation. I don't necessarily disagree with that. That seems to me to be some kind of justice. If you are, for your own financial gain, going to ruin a man's life with a false allegation, one of the most evil things you can do, then you should be punished for that under the law. We should make laws against that if we don't have laws against that on the book. Because the situation for young men in our country right now, again, criticize hookup culture all you want, criticize casual sex all you want, and I certainly do criticize both. I think they're wrong, I think they're destructive, and I think some of this could be avoided if you avoid the hookup culture and casual sex. But setting that aside, just because I think that that's an immoral thing to do, to take part in that, doesn't mean that men deserve to face false allegations after which they are deprived due process. Trevor Bauer is one of the lucky ones. Lucky, quote unquote. He hasn't been allowed to talk about this or defend his name for 2 years, even though this went down in public. 2 years. Can you imagine the mental pressure that he has faced? Can you imagine this riding on your back, being mentioned every time your name is mentioned? And he's only now finally able to talk about it. This is messed up. And this is something that crosses party lines. Men everywhere recognize that they could be vulnerable to this. And women everywhere recognize that their husbands and their brothers and their sons and their fathers could be subject to this if there's some woman somewhere who has a tiny grievance against them. The problem in our culture is deeper than this. This is the outgrowth of a deeper problem in the way that we govern our society, the way that we define what we want our society to be, the way that we view human flourishing, the way that we view freedom. And I talk a little bit about this in my book. I talk about the origin of the attack on masculinity in our country, and I talk about what we can do to stop it. So if you haven't gotten your copy of my book, go to hideyourchildrenbook.com. That's hideyourchildrenbook.com, or you can find it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or wherever books are sold. It's called Hide Your Children, Exposing the Marxists Behind the Attack on America's Kids. Thank you for watching today. Thank you for listening. I'm Liz Wheeler. This is The Liz Wheeler Show.
If you haven't already, give this video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button below, and ring the bell to make sure you never miss a video.